Today, I want to talk about my initial impressions of Marvel Rivals. If you didn't know, it's a team-based PvP superhero shooter based on characters in the Marvel universe. It's developed by Marvel and NetEase Games. And honestly, just thinking about it, it kind of baffles me how this hasn't been done yet, you know? When making a hero shooter, why not use already established heroes from different IPs? It just seems like a no-duh. It really feels like this game is what Midnight Suns should have been when I first saw that trailer. And as mainly a Valorant player, I have to say my first couple of days was kind of rough. Now, just to give you a little bit of background with my gaming experience, I've only played Overwatch 2 and never Overwatch 1. And I only played it for 2 days just because it felt too chaotic for me. So you can only imagine how 6v6 was kind of a turnoff for me at first. However, after watching this trailer, I had to give this game another chance.
When warriors cross paths, sparks fly. Cower before dark child. Chaos leads to confusion.
Insignificant fools. Even from the future. Even from the past, no one rivals Doom!
And to be fair, when you drop a cold line like no one rivals Doom, you kind of deserve a second chance. But first, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the Overwatch comparisons. And this isn't anything new. Whenever a new hero shooter comes out, people automatically say it's an Overwatch clone. I even saw it with Valorant for whatever crazy reason. People were calling this, oh, Overwatch meets CSGO, which just because a game is a hero shooter doesn't mean it took influence from Overwatch. Mainly because you would see those comments saying that Overwatch is just a copy of TF2. And if you play both those games, you'll notice they're very different. You can't really call them a clone of each other. Same thing with Valorant and other hero shooters that have came out after those two games. However, it's kind of hard to defend Marvel Rivals when they have the exact same game modes, role systems, and even similar kill sounds. But there are a few things that Marvel Rivals does differently that I want to go over. Things that I actually like, as well as things that I'm worried about when it comes to the longevity of this game. Right off the bat, Overwatch and Overwatch 2 is mainly a first-person game, with some elements of third person, but it's mainly first person. While Marvel Rivals is the complete opposite, where it's mainly third person, and there's some abilities that take you into the first person point of view. And honestly, I don't know how we as a community let Fortnite dominate the third person shooter perspective. Like, it's so easy to name 5 first person PvP shooters. Naming 5 popular third person shooters is almost impossible, at least for me. If you can do it, let me know down below. But it is just cool being able to see your characters and the skins that they have in action. And I already know part of the reason why it's hard to make a popular third-person shooter is because the gunplay usually isn't that satisfying. But like I said, Marvel Rivals is a hero shooter, so there's abilities to counteract that lack of gunplay. And in fact, there aren't even that many characters that use guns as their primary weapons. It's a lot of projectile, with a few hit scans, or at least projectiles that move very fast that is basically hit scan. And it feels unique and different. And I feel like if you're making a third person shooter, you just can't rely strictly on gunplay to carry it, like how first person shooters usually do. And speaking of abilities, I think they do a pretty good job at the character designs, right? When I first heard about Marvel Rivals, I was thinking, oh, okay, this is just going to be the MCU's ad for their characters. And it turns out that's not the case. Like Thor, he looks more like God of War Thor than he does MCU Thor. Even other characters look unique to this universe. And like I said, the abilities really reflect their characters pretty well too, in my opinion. For example, flying as Iron Man feels amazing. You really feel like you're going at Mach 5 while shooting rockets out of your suit. It just reminded me of like the movies and TV shows I've seen of him. But there are other characters that aren't as popular, like the Punisher and Magic, that have very cool designs, and I can really see being fan favorites in this game just because they're really good and fun to play. There's also team up abilities where if you play certain characters together, you get buffs or even completely new weapons to use. Like Iron Man gets a gamma buff when him and Hulk play together, and Magneto gets a freaking sword when him and Scarlet Witch play together, since they are family. And it's really cool that they're trying to like push these sort of team ups together with these buffs given. Another thing that is really different in Marvel Rivals than it is in Overwatch is the destructible environment, which on paper I like some of the times, but other times it's kind of iffy because they can block you and get in your way, but it's not really a deal breaker, nor does it really sell me into playing Marvel Rivals even more. It kind of feels like it's just there to be there, but I'm not upset that it's there. And one of the things that I really love about this hero shooter is that they don't fall into the trap of everyone has to have a CC. I've played so many games in the past where it just becomes CC spam. And yes, there are some characters in this game that can halt your progress or stun you, but it's not too drastic and it doesn't happen as much as you would think it does. And just because of all of that, I think Marvel Rivals did a good enough job to give players a unique experience. Especially like someone like me who's had like less than 10 hours of Overwatch experience. And I really like this. I actually like it more than Overwatch. However, there are some things that I am worried about this game. And one of that is the amount of characters that are already in the game, right? I believe it's around 23 heroes are playable in the last playtest. And there's like another 18 that data miners have found that are to be released. And on paper, you'd be like, more heroes, more fun. That's great. But I'm worried about if that's the only way that they can bring content into the game. Is that their only mindset? You know, obviously they're going to come out with maps, but the fact that you have 23 heroes now and not enough maps, it's kind of crazy to me. Because think about it, like I believe Valorant launched with like 10 playable characters. It was around 10, and it's been out for about 4 years, and we've only hit, I want to say, around 20. Yeah, it's only been 25 agents in Valorant. So Marvel Rivals is most likely going to surpass Valorant in the number of playable characters, and Marvel Rivals is still in its beta. It hasn't even released yet, and it's about to surpass Valorant in that terms. Like, can we get a new map instead first? Or how about this, a game mode, like a unique game mode to Marvel Rivals? If you want to dodge those, this is just an Overwatch clone narratives, how about we come out with game modes that Overwatch 2 doesn't have? You know, one of my favorite game modes was, I believe it was in Rogue Company, it was called Dodgeball, and there was a different version of it called like Takedown in Splitgate, where the objective was to eliminate everyone on the other team. But if you were able to get elimination, you could bring one of your teammates back. It was a very high pace and fast. I'm not too sure if it will work in Marvel Rivals, but I'm sure there are game modes out there that they could introduce or just make their own that could really differentiate itself from Overwatch 2. Another thing that I'm worried about is the optimization in this game. It's a new game, it's in the beta. That's something that I take into account. But there's been a handful of times where my frames just dropped to like below 60, despite me being able to run it at 120 from times. It usually happens when there's like a lot of particle effects and abilities going on at the same time. But I remember playing Overwatch 2 and I was able to get a constant like 100 FPS while playing Overwatch 2. So that's the thing that will hurt Marvel Rivals longevity. It's because at the end of the day, one of the strong points of Valorant itself is that you could play Valorant on like a dusty old rig and still get amazing FPS on it, like out-of-date graphics card and whatnot. Same thing with Overwatch. It helps with the reachability and the availability for people. If someone needs a high-end PC to really experience this game, that will hurt its growth. But it is just in the beta. I'm sure they can improve on it. The next thing I am kind of worried about is the whole role issues. Again, I didn't play a lot of Overwatch 2 at all, but like in Valorant, you could run 5 duelists and still win games, you know? We've seen in pro play, people run 3, sometimes 4 duelists, and they still win. Like, roles are important in Valorant, but at the end of the day, it's if you can click heads, it determines who wins. That's not really the case in Marvel Rivals, right? If you have 4 duelists, like DPS agents, and like, let's say 1 tank or just 1 healer, your team that's an uphill battle. The win condition for that comp is if the other team's comp is bad. That's the only way that you can win with a comp. Like, if the other team is playing with their brains, you lose 9 times out of 10. You lose. At least from my experience playing Marvel Rivals. And I know that's been an issue with Overwatch 2 with the whole role queues and stuff like that. I'm not too sure how you fix that kind of issue. Maybe in like public and like casual play, you just let it be like the wild west. But maybe in pro play, after you get to a certain rank, let's say above plat or gold, you can't pick more than 2. But at the same time, that's kind of like limiting creativity, which sucks as well. It's just a really sticky place to be in with Marvel Rivals, and that's also a problem that Overwatch 2 had as well, with the whole like you need X amount of roles just so you have a fighting chance at winning. And lastly, it's like I'm a little bit not worried about this part, but kind of disappointed is the fact that since this is a Marvel IP, the idea of us seeing other heroes from different universes like DC or even anime characters probably won't happen, right? We won't get Goku in Marvel Rivals. We won't see Superman, The Flash either. But since it is owned by Disney, there could be a chance that we might see Star Wars characters in the future. But at the same time, is cool because we might be able to see characters that aren't as popular. I had no idea that Galactus had a daughter named Galacta before Marvel Rivals came out. Same thing with Magique. I didn't even know she was a thing. I heard about the Punisher, but he was never really like that important to me of a character. But after playing Marvel Rivals, I've actually looked into his comics, his story. It's pretty cool. So my overall thoughts is that Marvel Rivals is a pretty good game. Now, people are going to say, will it kill Overwatch 2? I'm against the fence on that. I don't think it will kill Overwatch 2 just because the only person who can kill a game once you're that big is the game itself, right? But the question is, can it overtake Overwatch 2? Can it be the superior and more popular version of its predecessors? And I honestly believe that Marvel Rivals can be bigger and more fun and popular than Overwatch 2. Like, just Spider-Man by himself is more popular than Overwatch. Like if Disney ever decides to come out with a TV show or a movie based on the Marvel Rivals universe, it's a wrap. It's GG's. Overwatch can't fight that. Blizzard can't fight that. They will become second fiddle. But it just depends on how they monetize this game, you know? If they hide characters behind a paywall, like some other hero shooters that I played in the past, basically like gacha systems, it's dead on arrival, you know? And it will be a shame. It will be a shame. But if they're smart with their monetization practices, then I don't see any reasons for it not to be better than Overwatch 2. And they don't even have to really invest in esports to do it either. And that's saying a lot too, because whenever a new shooter comes out, especially if it's first person, I'm usually advocating for companies to lay that foundation of making an esports. I feel like that's a great expense to have because at the end of the day, esports is just like advertisement for your game. And people love to see the best of the best compete. You know, I watched a little bit of Marvel Rivals tournaments already where they're hosting a lot of cash prizes. And it's just amazing to just see the control that people have with certain characters like the Hulk, Iron Man, just being able to snipe people from across the map with abilities. I was like, oh wow, I didn't even think that you can use it like that, which is pretty cool. So I'm happy that they're doing it for Marvel Rivals, but that's just like a cherry on top. They don't really have to do that to make this game popular. It's great that they are doing it, but they don't have to. That's just a testament to how strong of an IP that Marvel can be. But at the end of the day, like people can come for the IP, but they're staying for the gameplay. And I think they're doing a pretty good job so far. If there's enough interest, I probably will start a second channel. But yeah, till then, stay safe, and I'll be yapping in the next one.